Welcome to week 5 of 2013 users. So this week we're going to be focusing on more of the design and layout aspect of Microsoft Office. And then in a future class, we're going to take what we've learned here in this tutorial and do custom templates. So for now, this week we're going to be focusing on these two tabs here, design and page layout. If it'll click over there. Now, in earlier versions of Word in 2007 and 2010, everything in here was actually just in page layout. This split is new to 2013. It is what it is. So we're going to start in design, head over to page layout, and then toggle back to design for some last little stuff. So I just wanted to call your attention to these preloaded themes in Word. So right here we've got theme. The theme is just the default Office theme. This is sort of the default mode Office is in. And to the right we have all these preset templates with specific headings and color schemes, characteristic of Word. And we can see these theme colors here. If we go into Home, theme colors related to that specific theme there. So if we want to change the theme to something, say Berlin, well then it loads up. It's pretty similar, setting and layout styles, but the default colors have changed, and over in the Home tab, your theme colors have changed. This is something worth playing around with, especially if you're doing a more creative project. You may want to play around with some of these presets. The one thing I do caution you about is that some of these presets, they're not always all that malleable and customizable. So if you're the kind of person that really wants to just do it all yourself from scratch, from the ground up, and have a lot of room to really work something yourself, you don't want to go with the presets. It'll lead to frustration. So we've covered margins and orientations and size a bit already. I do want to show you how to do columns. There are several different types of columns. This right here is considered a one-column document. You can do 2 or 3. You can also do some what's called a left column, where the text on the right is wider than the text on the left, or a right column where the text on the right is narrower than the text on the left. There are also more preset columns in Word. Quite honestly, if you get to more than 3, you're sort of confusing. Not necessarily confusing people, but it makes things harder to read. So from sort of a technical standpoint and from a clarity standpoint, you probably want to keep it to 2 or 3. Anyway, setting things up into columns is fairly simple. So I'll undo and show you what I did there. So I have my cursor down at the end of this paragraph here because that's where I want my column to go. So I want 2 columns, and it took that, let's see, it didn't actually put the break in, but the point is that Word automatically just divided everything into 2 columns all the way down. I'm like, oh, what if I want 3 columns instead? Well, there, it automatically did 3 columns. And this is what the left column looks like, and this is what the right column looks like. So again, that's pretty simple. It's actually a little simpler than it was in earlier versions of Word. And again, they make it very simple to sort of toggle and see what you want to do. So that's good. Breaks, page breaks. So this breaks tab, this is another one that's different between 2010 and 2013. Section breaks used to be in a different part in page break. page breaks used to be in one ribbon and section breaks used to be in another. Now they've merged. Um, to give you a good sense of what's going on, I'm going to actually turn on this show hide button that shows our markup. So this document is on, this sample text is 2 pages, but say I want my page break sooner. Say I want my page to break here. So I go to break, page. And you see here there's this little bit of, this little annotation that, so Word is letting us know there's a page break here. So if I turn this off, it'll go away. But if I want to see where the page break is, it's right there. And hey, we've started on a new page at the paragraph I wanted to start the new page. You can also insert a column from here. And so you could, again, start a column break here. But then you do I have to turn the columns on to start that. So if it's a single column, it's not going to work. But this allows you to pinpoint where you want your new column to start. Text wrapping, that's not too important right now. Actually, we'll cover that more when we work with images, but text wrapping is a way you can set your breaks so they wrap around an image and create a more elegant look. But again, we haven't really gone to images yet, so I'm not going to get into that too much. So section breaks. We're going to cover this more in detail a little later when we do page numbering. It's very important. I do want to clarify, a page break literally is just from one page to another. A section break is a little different in that, so I'll put in a section break right here. The one you'd probably use most often is the next page section break, in which now we're starting a new section on a next page. So I inserted that section break, and we have this double line here that's indicating we've got this section break. And this is good, say if you're writing multiple chapters, you might want to consider doing a chapter as a section and then the next chapter as its own section. And this, among other things, allows you to manipulate certain elements of your document without them interfering with others. And it's good if you're doing e-publishing to do these section breaks like this, because a lot of times it makes it easier to edit things and divide them up into chapters. So the next page is where it starts a new section on the next page. Continuous break inserts this break and starts a new section on the same page. So I'll show you what that looks like. Most of my students do. So you have to put your cursor where you want the section break to be, continuous, and then you see this markup here, and then we're on a new section. Most of my students don't use continuous section breaks. It's just not something that's super relevant. I wanted to call your attention to it though. You can also do even page or odd page and start your section on the next even numbered page or odd numbered page. But really, the most straightforward one is the next page, and that's the one most of my students use. Line numbers. So let's put in some line numbers. Again, I have not actually seen a final project with line numbers before, to be perfectly honest, but for some types of documents, especially legal documents, they do come in handy. So, it's good to know how to do these. So what I did is I just inserted continuous line numbers here. So the first line is line 1, and it continues on the next page. Extra spaces do count as a line, but if I decrease that space, there's no line there. And it goes all the way to 43. There are 43 lines in the document. But say I wanted to restart the lines on each page, so there are 26 lines on this document, 17 on this one. So I went and just clicked restart each page. You can also restart each section. So I have 43 lines in this section, and then in this section I'm going to put in line numbers, and it starts over because so we put this section break in here, and we've started the new section. So since there's that section break, it started over. So if you wanted to say if you had a chapter where you wanted all of your lines numbered, and then you wanted the next chapter all of your lines numbered, but you wanted to start at 1, you would do that restart each section. You can also suppress for a particular paragraph. So I suppressed it for that particular paragraph, and now we jump from 32. Hey, there are no line numbers, and now here we are on line 33. It's fun to experiment with. You might just want to play around with it, even if it's not relevant for your particular project. It's just worthwhile and worth interesting. Alright, hyphenation. So what is this and why do we care about it? Well, sometimes, say, let's see if it's going to work on this one. So sometimes, and we're not actually having this issue with this particular document. But sometimes, so I put everything in this justified alignment, which means everything here is square, everything here is square, there's no real jagged edges, except when we have these, really short end lines. So sometimes when you do that, spacing, or the spacing between words, or the spacing between letters, or the stretching of letters gets sort of messed up. So what you can do is you can actually set things to automatically hyphenate. So why isn't it doing it? I'm going to try to type a really long word here. This is not a word, and that's... okay, there. I got it to automatically hyphenate. So see, it automatically put this hyphen in because the word had gotten too long, and it just automatically, again, hyphenated it so the reader knows that this word isn't done, it's just continuing on the next line. You can also do manual hyphenation, but if, but I just wanted to call your attention to the automatic one. Let's see. Indents. Yes. And spacing. So, indenting. One way to indent is hit the tab button. That's probably the most common way you've been trained to indent. You can also, though, set your indents in here. So say you want to indent. And this will, so when I put my cursor here and indented one, I indented just, oops, I just indented that one line. But say I put my cursor on the second or third line, Word's going to and hit tab, Word's going to interpret that as I want to indent this whole paragraph. If I just wanted to indent that third line, I would have to hit enter and start over. But you can also place your cursor, decide I want a 2-inch indentation, and then again this indents the whole paragraph. You could, let me show you again, if you hit this little arrow, you can actually set up special indentation and just set it up for the first line. And hit, you want a 2-inch indent. There. So there you have it set. So it's doing that huge indent on the first line, but not anywhere else. You can also indent to the right. We don't indent to the right too often, but sometimes we do. Um, let's do a 1-inch indent on the right. You can see how that worked. And again, you would follow, if you wanted to just do the first line, you would follow that same procedure. Special, first line, set it to 1 inch. Nope. Except it just did it on the left. I think because it can't actually, let's see. Yeah, first line, oh, I actually didn't set it to indent on the right. I just set it, if you do this by, it just automatically assumes on the left. So you have to actually go in and do it on the right. Spacing. So one of the things I talk about is that in your final projects, we don't want double spacing. I prefer single spacing. Um, and I've had some students ask me about that. Um, they worry about readability. Certainly, that's definitely a concern. Um, I'm gonna put this whole thing. I actually think this whole thing is single space. No, it's not. So I've got this whole thing single spaced right now. And a lot of people do complain, oh, that's difficult to read, it's weird. Um, and if that's the way you feel, okay. So you can mess around with your custom line spacing. Um, so this is currently, um, and you can mess with it in here. But I really like to go in. So, so playing with it here really just messes with these gaps between paragraphs. So it's 18, and I'm shrinking it. So it was at 18. I hit the down button and see how this shrinks here, and then it shrinks again. Um, and here at the end, when I'm at the top and I make this go up, see how this text drops in this margin here. So you're really just looking at spaces there. If you actually wanted to, within a paragraph, adjust your line spacing, but double spacing is not really going to work, we have these at least exactly and multiple settings that we can play with. So at least 12 point, let's see. So let's put it at 12 point and see what happens. Not a huge change there. But let's say at least 20 point. Look at that. So that's a little bigger than I'd actually like to see. But it's not as dramatic as, say, a full double space. Try 15 point. So that 15 point, that's a really nice one. You've got some space in there, but it's not these huge gaps like you would for a double spaced paper. So again, play with those. So I like to use the at least feature a lot. You can also do exactly, let's put 15 again, pretty similar. So just play around with those and see what you like. A lot of people, a lot of good designers really do mess with that custom spacing, and that'll give your work sort of the look you want. It's a little more professional. So let's go back to the design tab. So here we have, again, we can mess with these custom colors, and we can mess with our fonts from the design tab in addition to the home tab. That's something that's new to 2013. This is definitely a new feature. Right now I have centered paragraph spacing, double spacing, we don't want that, tight, compact, and then you can customize it, but you can also go and do that from the page layout section that we just looked at. So 3 more things I just want to look at real quick. watermark. So a watermark is something that goes on a document, and it's sort of in the background, and you can't can't see it, or you can see it, um, um, but it makes it it's hard to edit those away. So it's a way of protecting your documents. Um, and these are just the defaults. Um, and you can look into getting more. Um, Most of my students don't need to use these, in the context of this class, but it's good to know where they are. Page color. Use page color sparingly. Um, um, Page color is great for, say, cover art. Rarely great for your main text. It can be really distracting. Sometimes it can be done well. With the right project, colored pages can be good, but then again, keep in mind also, we are focused on publishing to PDF for this class, but if you're publishing to print, you don't want to be printing colored pages. That's going to jack up your expenses. So in a professional setting, you're not really going to be using this too much, aside from cover pages. I'm going to turn off those line numbers because they're annoying me. So page borders. Page borders, again, these can be fun to play with. Don't overdo it, but you can mess with them. There are different styles in Word. Now I have this, look, we have this nice little border around here. Again, good for cover art, sometimes good for a project, not always. Experiment, see, I encourage you to try to take some risks with this. I really do. Just play around. If something's really not working, I will let you know, I promise. But for now, definitely play with it. See what you like. Um, and as a last note, back in the page layout tab, I did not cover this arrange section. That's a little more advanced. We'll get to it later. It's not really useful to what we're doing now. But I hope this has given you just some more tips on how to play with design and to create a book, and I look forward to seeing your assignments for